He never expected his quiet Tuesday morning at First National Bank to expose one of the most sophisticated heist operations in criminal history. When five members of the notorious Black Diamond crew decided to rob the bank, they had no idea the elderly security guard watching them was one of the military's most decorated Special Forces commanders. Robert Iron Wolf Thompson had spent 15 years hiding his true identity, masking his Delta Force training behind the facade of a simple rent-a-cop. The slight limp and reading glasses weren't a disguise. They were just what happened after 30 years of military service. But beneath that grandfatherly exterior was a man who had led some of the most dangerous operations in modern warfare. When Vincent "Viper" Castellano and his crew targeted the harmless old guard that morning, they thought they'd found the perfect inside advantage. Instead, their actions would trigger a chain of events that would dismantle their entire criminal empire and prove that sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones wearing the cheapest uniforms. The morning sun filtered through First National Bank's tall windows as Robert Thompson adjusted his reading glasses and settled into his security desk. At 67, he appeared exactly like what people expected. Gray hair, slight paunch, cheap uniform, and the grandfatherly smile that made customers feel safe. They had no idea they were being protected by one of America's most lethal soldiers. What customers couldn't see was how Robert's eyes constantly tracked every person entering, cataloging threats with precision earned through 3 decades in hostile environments. What they didn't know was that Iron Wolf Thompson had commanded missions so classified, their existence was denied by every agency. "Morning, Mr. Thompson," called Jessica Chen, the head teller, unlocking her station. "How's Tommy doing?" "Made varsity football," Robert replied warmly, his voice carrying the rasp that came from years shouting orders over gunfire. "Kid's got a good head." "Wonderful," Jessica smiled, beginning opening procedures. But Robert's attention had shifted to something that made his blood freeze. A black van sat across the street, windows tinted for surveillance. A motorcycle had been circling for 10 minutes, systematic area assessment he'd taught Special Forces recruits. After 15 peaceful years, predators had found First National Bank. Robert reached for his emergency phone, but the bank's door chimed as 5 men entered with casual customer confidence. Except Robert's trained eye immediately identified them as anything but routine. The leader wore expensive clothes that couldn't hide prison tattoos. He moved with controlled aggression, eyes sweeping the interior with professional assessment. Vincent "Viper" Castellano. Robert recognized him from FBI bulletins. Black Diamond crew leader, 17 robberies across 4 states, all conducted with military precision that baffled law enforcement. But Viper couldn't know he was being observed by someone who'd written the tactical operations manual. "Good morning, folks," Viper said to Jessica with a smile that never reached cold eyes. "Beautiful day for banking." 4 crew members spread through the bank with practiced efficiency, 2 covering entrances, 1 by tellers, 1 near the vault. Viper maintaining command position, textbook formation for controlling civilians during operations. They'd made one critical error in their assessment. They'd dismissed the elderly security guard as irrelevant. "Can I help you?" Jessica asked, professional training not yet recognizing developing danger. "Actually, yes," Viper replied, producing a pistol. "I'd like to make a very large withdrawal." The transformation was instant. 4 weapons appeared as Black Diamond dropped civilian masks. "Everyone on the ground, now!" shouted Marcus, Viper's lieutenant, voice carrying authority of someone used to obedience. Customers screamed, dropping as reality became clear. This wasn't just robbery. This was military-style operation by professionals who knew exactly what they were doing. But they didn't know their simple bank job was about to become their biggest mistake. Robert remained seated, hands visible, playing frightened old man too shocked to move. Behind reading glasses, his mind analyzed positions, counted personnel, formulated responses with cold efficiency that made him legendary. "You too, Grandpa," Marcus called, gesturing toward Robert, "on the ground." "Sure, sure," Robert replied, voice trembling with what sounded like fear but was suppressed adrenaline. "Please don't hurt anyone." As he slowly stood, Robert caught Jessica's eye with an imperceptible nod, a signal from security drills she thought were routine procedure. Jessica's hand moved toward the silent alarm, but Viper was watching. "Hands visible, sweetheart," Viper warned, weapon trained on the teller. No heroes today. Keep this simple. Nobody gets hurt. But what Viper was about to discover was that sometimes heroes come in unexpected packages. Please, Robert said, shuffling toward the floor with elderly movements. We're just regular folks. Take what you want. Marcus laughed harshly. That's exactly the plan, old man. Stay quiet and maybe you'll tell your grandson about this. The mention of his grandson triggered something deep in Robert's psyche. Protective instinct, dormant 15 years but never gone. Because what Black Diamond was about to learn was that threatening innocent people in front of Iron Wolf Thompson was the deadliest mistake any criminal could make. But first, they needed to understand exactly what kind of bank they decided to rob. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Viper moved to the teller station with professional efficiency, producing a duffel bag suggesting this wasn't his first robbery. Vault keys, he demanded from Jessica, weapons steady. No stalling. We know your cash procedures. Jessica's hands shook, reaching for vault controls, but Robert saw intelligence in her eyes. She followed security protocols, moving slowly to give response teams time while avoiding actions triggering violence. She didn't know response would come from much closer than expected. Please don't hurt her, Robert called from the floor, voice mixing fear and concern to maintain harmless cover. She's got kids. Shut up, old man, Marcus snapped. But Robert noted how the lieutenant's attention diverted from tactical awareness towards civilian control. Amateur mistake. In combat, stopping tactical thinking meant death. Robert cataloged positions. Viper at tellers, Marcus controlling lobby, 2 guards flanking entrance, 5th member Tommy near vault with sophisticated electronics. Professional crew, quality weapons, detailed intelligence, but they thought like criminals, not soldiers, which meant they had no idea what was about to hit them. Vault's time locked, Jessica announced, voice steady despite terror. Won't open 43 minutes. Bullshit, Viper snarled, pressing his weapon to her temple. This bank opens vault access at 9 a.m. for cash operations. That's only for cash drawers, Jessica stammered, but Robert heard the lie. She was buying time, hoping for rescue that might not arrive before Viper's patience ended. Tommy, get over here with electronics, Viper commanded. Crack this thing open. As their demolitions expert moved toward the vault with military-grade explosives, Robert made the decision that would change everything. He began to move. Not obvious aggressive movement, but subtle repositioning. Special forces used to gain advantage without alerting enemies. Slight shift closer to cover. Careful leg adjustment for explosive movement. Gentle hand slide toward the concealed weapon he'd carried 15 years, but hoped never to use. How long? Marcus asked impatiently, watching Street for Police instead of monitoring supposedly helpless civilians. 5 minutes. Tommy replied, setting equipment that would blow the vault but create explosive force killing anyone nearby. This baby cracks anything. Robert's jaw tightened, realizing their plan wasn't just robbery. They'd use explosives in confined space with innocent people. Rules of engagement just changed from protection to elimination. Sir, Robert called, voice carrying new tone that made Viper look his direction. You might reconsider explosives in here. Why is that, old man? Viper asked with cruel amusement. Because, Robert said, entire demeanor shifting as 15 years of playing helpless fell away like discarded mask, some banks have better security than you realized. The transformation was subtle but unmistakable. Robert's voice lost tremor, gained authority of someone who'd commanded elite soldiers in life-or-death situations. Posture straightened, revealing conditioning that daily exercise maintained despite age. Most importantly, eyes changed from fearful confusion to cold calculation of a predator deciding to hunt. What are you talking about? Marcus demanded, uncertainty creeping into his voice. I'm talking about the fact that you just attempted to rob a bank protected by someone who spent 30 years teaching the world's most dangerous soldiers how to eliminate threats exactly like you. Robert stood slowly, movements carrying fluid precision of someone who'd never stopped being a warrior. Tommy, blow the vault, Viper ordered, but his weapon had shifted to track Robert. Now. I wouldn't, Robert said calmly, hand moving to his uniform's breast pocket. 15 years ago, taking this job, I made modifications to standard security procedures. He produced what appeared to be a simple badge, but pressing a concealed filled button, every exit sealed with heavy magnetic locks engaging. What the hell? Marcus spun toward the entrance, finding their escape route gone. Panic room protocols, Robert explained with patient teacher tone, designed to contain threats until response arrives. Problem is, you're now locked in here with me. Black Diamond found themselves trapped in what they'd thought was simple target, facing an opponent they'd dismissed as irrelevant. But they were about to discover some security guards have very different qualifications. Who the hell are you? Viper demanded, weapon trained on Robert, but voice carrying first real concern. Robert smiled, and for the first time in 15 years it wasn't grandfatherly and harmless. Colonel Robert Thompson, United States Army Special Forces, retired. Silence was broken only by distant police sirens. But my friends used to call me Iron Wolf. They thought they were robbing a simple small-town bank, but they were about to learn why you should never underestimate a wolf just because he's learned to wear sheep's clothing. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The revelation hit Black Diamond like physical blow, but Viper was experienced enough to recognize talk was psychology. I don't care if you're General Patton, he snarled, swinging his weapon toward cowering customers. Make one move and these people die. No, Robert replied with calm certainty. They won't. What happened next occurred so fast, security cameras would need slow-motion replay to capture the sequence. Robert's hand moved to his belt, producing a weapon that wasn't standard security equipment. Compact .45 caliber pistol he'd carried 15 years, but kept so concealed even supervisors didn't know it existed. The first shot took Marcus in the shoulder, spinning him from customers with precision disabling without killing. The second shot shattered Tommy's explosive device, sending components scattering in sparks. Everybody down, Robert commanded, voice carrying battlefield authority, making everyone, including remaining crew, drop instinctively. Viper recovered faster than expected, training weapon on Jessica to execute hostage threat, but Robert had spent 30 years preparing for exactly this scenario. The third shot took Viper's weapon from his hand, precision marksmanship, sending the pistol spinning across marble. The fourth shot disabled the nearest guard's knee, eliminating mobility without permanent damage. In 6 seconds, Robert had neutralized 4 of 5 armed criminals using controlled precision, speaking of training far beyond civilian security. The fifth member, young Rico watching the street, raised hands in immediate surrender. Jesus Christ, Rico stammered. We surrender. Don't shoot. Smart choice, Robert replied, weapon remaining trained center mass. Everyone stay exactly where you are until backup arrives. Through sealed windows, police tactical units established perimeter control. They'd prepare for lengthy hostage negotiation, having no idea the situation was already resolved. Robert activated security radio. This is Thompson inside First National. Situation secure. 5 suspects in custody. No civilian casualties. Ready for entry coordination. Thompson, this is Tactical Command, came surprised response. Confirm situation secure? We show hostile takeover in progress. Negative, Command. Threat neutralized. Suspects wounded but stable, requesting medical support. Jessica raised her head slowly, staring at Robert with awe and disbelief. Mr. Thompson, how did you? 30 years of practice, Robert replied, keeping weapon ready while checking each disabled crew member. Some skills you never lose. Viper, clutching wounded hand, looked up with grudging respect. Iron Wolf, heard stories in prison, thought you were dead. I was, Robert said quietly. This job brought me back to life. As police entry teams began coordinated access, Robert secured weapons and provided first aid with professional competence he'd once shown treating injured soldiers. Why didn't you kill us? Marcus asked through gritted teeth, shoulder bleeding but not life-threatening. Robert paused in medical treatment, considering the question, going to why he'd left military service. Because, he said finally, protecting people doesn't require destroying them. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to criminals is let them live to spread word about what happens when they threaten innocent folks. 20 minutes later, as paramedics treated wounded crew and federal agents processed the scene, Robert sat at his desk filling incident reports with same calm precision he'd shown during confrontation. Agent Sarah Martinez approached with obvious curiosity. "Colonel Thompson, we need detailed statement about your response procedures." "Of course," Robert replied, removing reading glasses to clean them. "Though my official title is Security Guard, First Class, the colonel retired 15 years ago." "Right," Agent Martinez smiled. "The security guard who neutralized 5 armed criminals with precision shooting that would impress SWAT instructors." "Lucky shots," Robert said modestly, but his eyes carried humor, suggesting luck had nothing to do with it. As federal agents completed investigation and the last ambulance departed, Jessica approached Robert's desk with obvious questions. "Mr. Thompson," she said quietly, "are you really just a security guard?" Robert looked around the bank that had been his quiet home 15 years. Customers who trusted him to keep their money safe, employees who shared coffee and family stories, the community that had given him peace after decades of war. "Jessica," he said with complete sincerity, "I'm exactly what I appear to be, a grandfather who takes security seriously." "And the military training? Some jobs prepare you for unexpected situations." As evening fell over First National, Robert completed shift reports and prepared to go home to his grandson's football game. Black Diamond was in federal custody, facing charges, keeping them from innocent people for life. More importantly, word would spread through criminal networks about the elderly security guard who dismantled a professional crew with precision bordering on supernatural. First National would never be targeted again. Not because of improved security systems, but because criminals would remember Iron Wolf Thompson and decide some targets weren't worth the risk. As Robert locked the bank, he reflected on how much had changed in a single day. For 15 years, he'd convinced himself his fighting days were over, that his skills only brought death. But today proved sometimes the greatest victory isn't eliminating enemies, it's protecting what matters while giving those enemies chance to make better choices. Black Diamond had come expecting easy money and helpless victims. Instead, they discovered some sheepdogs never really retire. They just learned to be more selective about when to show their teeth. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. 3 months after the incident, Robert's life had settled into comfortable routine, with one significant difference. Word of the Iron Wolf security guard had spread through law enforcement and criminal networks, creating reputation extending far beyond their town. Agent Martinez appeared at the bank's entrance, expression serious. "Colonel Thompson," she said, approaching his station, "we need to talk." "Just Mr. Thompson," Robert corrected with a smile. "What can I help with?" Martinez showed him surveillance photos from robberies across 3 states. Recognize the pattern? Robert studied images with professional interest. Same composition, similar tactics, but different execution. They're adapting to something. "They're adapting to you," Martinez confirmed. "Every major crew in the region has changed target selection. They're specifically avoiding banks with older security guards." "Good news for innocent people," Robert observed. "It is, but we've got bigger problems." Martinez pulled up another file. "Vincent Castellano made bail. Word is he's assembling a new crew specifically to finish what he started." Robert's expression didn't change, but his eyes took on the calculating look from the robbery. "When?" "Soon. Informants say he's calling it professional reputation. Claims no bank guard, retired military or not, is ending his career." Robert leaned back, processing information with tactical precision. "What kind of crew?" "Professional military contractors, ex-special forces, former mercenaries, people with training matching yours." Martinez's concern was evident. "This won't be like last time. They're coming prepared for war." "Then they'll find one," Robert said quietly. That evening, Robert sat on his porch watching grandson Tommy practice football drills. The boy's dedication reminded him of young soldiers he'd trained. Focused, determined, willing to work for improvement. "Grandpa," Tommy called out, "Mom says you stop bad guys. Is that true?" Robert considered carefully. "Sometimes people make poor choices, and sometimes others have to help them understand better options. Were you scared?" "Fear keeps you alert," Robert replied. "It's what you do with fear that matters." Tommy nodded with 16-year-old seriousness, trying to understand adult complexities. "Will you keep working at the bank?" As long as they'll have me, Robert said, watching clouds gather. Some jobs are worth doing regardless of risks. What Robert didn't tell his grandson was that he'd already begun preparations for Viper's return. 15 years of peaceful security hadn't dulled strategic thinking. If anything, it had given him intimate knowledge of the bank's strengths and weaknesses. Over the next week, Robert made subtle modifications to First National's security procedures. Additional cameras in blind spots, reinforced positions for cover during firefights, communication equipment coordinating with law enforcement response. To supervisors, these looked like routine improvements. To someone with Robert's background, they were tactical preparations for siege. Jessica noticed changes during morning routine. "Mr. Thompson, is everything okay? You seem different." "Just keeping security current," Robert replied, adjusting camera angle, providing perfect sniper position coverage. "Can't be too careful." "It's about those men returning, isn't it?" Jessica's voice carried concern beyond professional interest. "Agent Martinez told me they might come back." Robert paused in equipment check, looking at the young woman who'd shown remarkable courage during the robbery. "Jessica, next few weeks, if anything unusual happens, anything at all, follow emergency procedures we practiced. No heroes, no risks. Get to safety and let me handle whatever develops." "Mr. Thompson," Jessica said quietly, "those men coming, they're not like before, are they?" "No," Robert admitted, "they're not, but neither am I." The attack came Thursday morning when the bank was busiest, exactly as Robert predicted. Through surveillance monitors, he watched 12 heavily armed figures establish perimeter positions with military precision confirming Martinez's intelligence. These weren't criminals playing soldier. These were professional operators conducting military-style assault on civilian infrastructure. Robert activated emergency protocols, sealing the bank and alerting law enforcement while positioning for the fight he'd prepared for since Viper's threat reached him. His secure phone buzzed. "Iron Wolf, time to see if retirement made you soft. This ends today. V." Robert smiled grimly, typing back, "Viper, some lessons worth repeating. Welcome back to school." Through reinforced windows, he could see Viper's tactical team moving with coordination, speaking of extensive planning and training. But they didn't understand. They were attacking a position defended by someone who'd spent 3 decades teaching elite soldiers how to turn defensive advantages into offensive victories. The war for First National was about to begin, and Iron Wolf Thompson was ready to remind everyone why some reputations are built on more than stories. They thought they were facing a simple security guard who'd gotten lucky once, but they were about to discover why legends never really retire. They just wait for the right moment to prove why they became legends in the first place. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The assault began at 10:15 a.m. with coordinated breaching charges shattering reinforced windows simultaneously. Viper's crew moved with military precision, but found themselves entering a building transformed from simple bank into tactical fortress. Robert was ready. First wave encountered unexpected obstacles. Furniture positioned channeling movement into predetermined kill zones, lighting modifications giving defensive advantage to someone knowing the terrain, and most importantly, an opponent who'd spent weeks preparing for exactly this scenario. "Welcome back, gentlemen." Robert's voice echoed through the intercom as smoke grenades filled the lobby. "Hope you brought better planning this time." Viper's response was immediate gunfire directed at Robert's station, but the elderly guard was no longer there. He'd moved to positions 15 years of observation had taught him were perfect for defensive fighting. "Spread out," Viper commanded, frustration evident as his intelligence proved completely wrong. "Find him and end this." But Robert had spent 30 years teaching soldiers how to turn superior numbers into tactical disadvantages. Every movement the assault team made was observed, anticipated, and countered by someone knowing exactly how professional operators thought. The first attacker went down to precise fire from an unseen position. The second found himself caught in crossfire, eliminating mobility without permanent injury. Robert wasn't trying to kill. He was systematically dismantling operational capability while demonstrating why attacking his bank had been a fatal error. "This is impossible," one mercenary shouted as his teammate was disabled by supernatural shooting. "How is one old man doing this?" "Because," Robert's voice came from speakers throughout the bank, "some old men have more experience than you realized." Through surveillance, Robert watched Viper growing desperate as his assault dissolved into chaos. Professional soldiers were being outmaneuvered by a single opponent seeming everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Police sirens filled the air as tactical response surrounded the bank, but Robert knew they'd wait for SWAT coordination, which meant he had to maintain defensive control until professional backup could end this siege without civilian casualties. "Iron Wolf," Viper's voice echoed through smoke-filled lobby. "Face me like a soldier instead of hiding like a coward." "Hiding?" Robert emerged from concealment near the vault, weapon trained on Viper with steady precision. "Son, I've been giving you a tactical demonstration. This is what happens when amateurs challenge professionals." Sag. The two men faced each other across the lobby, the aging Special Forces colonel who'd found peace protecting innocent people, and the career criminal who'd made the mistake of threatening that peace. "You should have stayed retired, old man," Viper snarled, but his weapon wavered, processing the tactical situation developed around him. "Retirement doesn't mean surrender," Robert replied calmly. "It just means choosing battles more carefully." Through sealed windows, they could see SWAT teams preparing coordinated entry. Viper's assault force was surrounded, outnumbered, and facing a defensive position proven impossible to overcome. "Last chance," Robert announced to remaining attackers. "Surrender now and live to make better choices. Continue fighting and discover why some reputations are earned through decades of professional competence." One by one, Viper's mercenaries laid down weapons and raised hands. Professional soldiers recognized when positions were untenable, regardless of employer demands. But Viper remained defiant until the end. "You think this is over?" he demanded as federal agents entered. "You think one victory makes you safe?" Robert holstered his weapon and straightened his security uniform, transforming back into the grandfatherly figure who'd watched over First National 15 years. "No," he said quietly, "but word will spread about what happened today, about what happens when criminals threaten innocent people in a bank protected by someone who takes responsibilities seriously." As the last ambulance departed and crime scene investigation concluded, Agent Martinez approached Robert's desk with obvious admiration. "Colonel, that was the most impressive defensive operation I've witnessed. Have you considered consulting with federal tactical training?" "I'm flattered," Robert replied, "but I've got a job already, one that lets me go home to my grandson every evening and help with homework." That night, as Robert sat watching Tommy's football game under Friday lights, he reflected on how his life had come full circle. 30 years ago, he'd been Iron Wolf Thompson, the Special Forces commander eliminating threats to national security. Today, he was just Robert Thompson, security guard, grandfather, and quiet protector of a small community that had given him everything he'd never known he wanted. Black Diamond was finished. Viper would spend life in federal prison. Most importantly, word would spread through criminal networks about the elderly security guard who'd proven some battles are worth fighting regardless of age or retirement status. First National would never be targeted again, not because of improved technology, but because criminals would remember the legend of Iron Wolf Thompson and decide some targets carried risks no planning could overcome. As the home team scored and Tommy raised his arms in celebration, Robert smiled with satisfaction of a man who'd found perfect balance between warrior past and peaceful present. Some guards protected buildings, some guards protected money. But Iron Wolf Thompson protected something far more valuable, the right of ordinary people to live without fear of those who mistook cruelty for strength. And that was a mission worth serving for the rest of his life. Did you enjoy this incredible story? If Robert's hidden military skills and bank protection amazed you, you're going to love what we have coming next. Show your support. Like this video if the security guard's true identity shocked you. Comment below. Which part surprised you the most? Share with friends who love underdog stories with epic reveals. Never miss a story. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for incredible stories like this every single day. Join the conversation. What kind of hidden identity story would you like to see next? Drop your ideas in the comments. Don't miss tomorrow's incredible reveal. Subscribe now.